What's up, Wanna Coffee fam? It's Kai, and we are back, kicking off season 2, and things have slightly changed for us. We will have weekly contributions from strangers all over the world discussing various topics chosen by yours truly. And this is the first time these contributors have spoken to one another, so you are in for a real treat. Without further ado, here is Dre and Alex with How Do Your Beliefs Differ from Your Daily Life?
All right, so we are recording. I thought this was an interesting question for me. I don't know if I've ever considered myself a spiritual person, or ever. Maybe I'll discover that like there are tenets of religion that influence my beliefs within our conversation, but I can't remember a time I've actively ever been like, oh, because I'm Christian, I think this way. Probably like the basic tenets of Christianity, and not being a shitty person and making
the basics, right? Like,
yeah. So that I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
But
my family, we were raised in church, but like my mom was raised in church. My dad, it's really interesting because I think my dad was raised in church. I just kind of assumed that, but I've never actually, I know he mentions church from when he was a kid, but not in the same way as like my mom does. I know my mother, my parents actually got married in the church my mom grew up in Lexington, Kentucky. Like the matriarch of our family literally worked at a church for like 50 years and retired from there. Like, so I definitely consider myself, like, we were raised in church. And I definitely consider myself a spiritual person. What I will say though is like, I hate the fact that I feel like I have to do this, but like, because I say I was raised in church and I am a Christian and I believe in Jesus, but I ain't one of those Christians. Like the lousy, and it's sad that like a lot of us feel like we have to say this because it's the loud, obnoxious, hateful, and those Christians, nah, because they're not really Christians. Like if you're gonna go like for real into the depth, like my mom always says, God said love thy neighbor, and he didn't stutter. He didn't say love thy neighbor only if they are. Like, there's no
right.
buts. It's a period. It's like that's the it. And like most things, I think spirituality gets perverted by humanity because humans are terrible.
Exactly. And I think that's like my biggest issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that I never went to church. My family went to church for a long time, and then my parents split. And so, like, I went to a Christian school for a while, and like we went to Lutheran church like Sundays. That was our thing. And then it kind of fell off after my parents split up. And like my kids don't go to church. My kids aren't baptized. Do I think any of us are damned to hell? No.
Right.
But I totally get it where you're like, yeah, I'm not one of those Christians. Like, for me, it's like, I'm not one of those white people. Like,
I can see how that is like a similar, like, look, yo, man, like every time you just see it, and you see the I don't believe in gay marriage because God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. And I'm just kind of like, if you don't hush your whole mouth, like, there's so many things. There's even like things like being a Black woman. Like, the Bible was used to maintain the institution of slavery. And it's like, as a Black person, there's a lot of Black people that I know that are even questioning their Christian beliefs because of that fact. And it's like, that is understandable. Like, that makes sense. And even I think every person goes through, there's different reasons and things that you do it with, but I think every person goes through their own, like, okay, I was raised this way. Do I still feel like that now as an adult with my own thoughts, opinions, etc.? And like, where do you do the adjusting? And so, yeah, I feel like it's so funny that you have to be like, all right, look, yes, I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus. All that, boom, pow. However,
Exactly.
like, I'm not that. Like, you will catch, like, that's not that the extreme. I guess radicalization, I guess, is the best word to use. Like, that stuff is just nuts, because humans will always take a piece of something, and there's always going to be those that take it to use it and morph it and pervert it into their own thing. And I think, like, there's so many facets of what spirituality could actually mean. Like, and one thing I love about our generation as a whole is I feel like we take a lot of foundational pieces and try to make it our own. So, like, I'm noticing a rise of people like burning sage and crystals, and just numerology and zodiacs and astrology and all of that stuff. Like, just really, at the very least, researching it, and, like, at the very least, trying to get an understanding of what it all means and how it potentially might work together. I've done a little bit of, like, I'm a big nerd, so I research a lot of stuff too, and it always brings me back to my beliefs. It always brings me back to God, but I think it maybe in an unconventional way. I know some people think that stuff is like witchcraft and all that stuff, and I'm kind of like, I don't know if that makes sense to me. Like, I don't know if it's that deep.
And I think the extremist portion of it has just, like, ruined my vision, and it's been a long time since I've been in a church, except for funerals. Like,
yeah.
So, like, it's not like I have anything against it, and it's not like I have plenty of friends who go to church every Sunday, and they're wonderful people, and they're wonderfully flawed people, and they don't judge me that I'm like, nah, I'm gonna stay at home and make cinnamon rolls with my kids and watch cartoons. Like, thanks for the invite. It's just vibe. Like,
well, let's be clear. Like, the way our society is set up, like, you do feel like you're losing a day. Like, and so, I mean, I grew up in most of my childhood. We went to church on not just Sunday, but, like, sometimes we went to Wednesday prayer meeting, and then, like, we were all, my sisters, my mother and father, all of us were parts of different groups in the church. So we all had, like, choir rehearsal on different days, and then there's vacation Bible school in the summer, and then there's, like, oh, there's the play, so you got play rehearsal on Saturday. Like, so I was at church like 3-4 days a week, like, at the actual building. You know what I mean? And so, like, I do remember, like, when we would miss a Sunday, and this is before I started playing. I played softball growing up too, so in the summers we missed a lot of church, and then we would kind of go back in the off season. But I do remember, like, when we did miss the Sunday, it was kind of like a treat. We were like, we get to sleep in, and we're gonna watch the football game and just, like, eat and relax, and that kind of stuff. But I don't think your relationship with God is necessarily connected to the building. Like, how often you go to the building. And I think we all learned that in the pandemic, because I haven't stepped foot in a church since February of last year, early March of last year. But I go to church on the YouTube Baptist Church is always there whenever I feel like, and I don't always watch it on Sunday. I might watch it on Monday, or toss a sermon on while I'm working because I want to hear something uplifting. Like, it's real. I feel like you got to get creative with your own relationship to spirituality as a whole,
And, like, my whole relationship with it, again, is, the very basic. Like, let's just not treat each other like shit, and let's be good people. Let's be good humans, and let's love each other, and accept each other. And because none of us are perfect, because, my mom grew up very strict Southern Baptist.
Mm-hmm.
And like she still holds those very conservative beliefs, but at the same time, like my mom is not a hateful person, and
Right.
she doesn't judge. She very firmly believes in that, like, don't judge lest you be judged. Like, it's not my place. And the only thing I ever say is like, you know what? Actually, I got my own shit to answer for when I get to the pearly gates. So I'm not gonna worry about anybody else. Like, if we want to look at my life, I did everything wrong. I had 2 beautiful children out of wedlock. And like,
And it's like, and the crazy part of, like, I'm so glad you brought that up, because the crazy part about that is, again, those of us who actually try to study the stuff, like, God would say exactly what you just said. Like, how about you start with just not being a bad person? Let's start there. Like, God kicked it with whores and thieves and outcasts. That's who he hung out with. Like, it's in the Bible that there's the same one that they're trying to use to hate other people. Like, did you like miss the other part? Like, and it's just very strange. All of it is very strange. And I think that, like you said, if you just keep the God in you is what keeps you from treating other folks like
I will, like, it will be the hill I die on for people to observe whatever religion they want to observe.
Right.
That's your thing. Like, but it can't dictate my life. My beliefs are dictate somebody else's, and that's the problem, is when it comes into politics. Like, oh, we were founded as a nation under God, and like, okay, yeah, but we also have freedom of religion, and
those same men who wrote One Nation Under God owned other people. So can we start there?
Exactly. And they're all
what high horse do they get to sit on? Like,
yeah. And it like infuriates me when we talk about women's reproductive rights and how that becomes like a biblical
gets dicey
too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, one, it's none of my business. And people be like, oh, would you have aborted your children? And I was like, when I got pregnant with my children, I was 28 and in a solid relationship and had 2 incomes. Like, no, like I was in a great position. But you know what? The story might have been different if I was 16 or 21, but it's not my business. Like,
it's not, and it's also your story. Like, it's everybody has their own specific journey, and while those are like people who are condemning folks who are making these decisions that they deem ungodly or whatever, like again, it doesn't make sense with the theology even. Like, that's what always, it'll always make, I'm like, even if I did believe that, even if I did believe it was wrong, which I don't, but even if I did, whatever it might be, we still supposedly, as Christians, we supposedly believe in salvation and redemption and resurrection and all of these things. And you're not going to bring people to God constantly damning them to hell for every mistake they made. That's not how that works.
Mm-hmm. And you always see the pro-life argument also being the same ones that are like, oh, well, yeah, let's cut those food stamps. Let's cut Medicaid and all these benefits that help the underserved populations. Like, okay, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. You're super pro-life. You're just
you're so pro-life until they start breathing. And then you just start taking stuff away immediately. Like, it's
and
so it's just nuts.
And it can just end up being so ridiculous. Like somebody saying happy holidays and like,
why are you so pressed? Like, just say it back, or say Merry Christmas. Say whatever you want back. But if they want to say happy holidays to you, why are you mad?
And I'm like, they're just being nice. There's no problem with somebody being kind to you. How about you try not being an asshole? Like,
I love it. I am literally going to hear, just don't be an asshole, for like in your voice from now on. I love it. Okay, so let's talk real quick, because I know we've gotten into like spirituality in the God sense, but like, what do you, aside from God, like, what does spirituality you think mean to you? Like, what does that mean by being in tune with your spiritual self?
This is so interesting. I don't know if I've ever really thought of it. Like, I know that I certainly believe in God. Like, I mean, I pray to him all the time, especially in regards to my kiddos, especially when I was terrified. My son came 2 months early, and
I know that's right.
I was like, get us out of here safely. Let's do this.
Hello.
Protect us, and so I know that I believe in a higher power, but I don't know if I'm super in tune. Maybe I'm a horrible person, because I really only reach out in times where everything is out of my control and I need to give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like when I surprised my son came 2 months early, and
it's like, okay, Jesus, we're doing this. All right.
I really only reach out to him when it's like, Jesus, take the wheel. I need.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I think I think we all do that. I think we all fall into that. Even those who claim to be the best Christians in the world. I think we all fall into that. I do try to make a point to talk to him and be more aggressive in my relationship with God in good times too. I don't want to always be like, oh my God, thank you, God, when I get what I asked for.
Yeah.
And you want to, I do want to, right now during this pandemic and the transition across country and all that stuff, I've been talking to him quite a bit, because it's been a very interesting year for me. And then even in now that I'm here, it's very much it's very quiet. I'm very standstill, and I am not used to that. And so it's very much okay, Lord, I guess you're trying to tell me I need to be patient and still for a second. Okay. And it's just very, I think sometimes it's forcing me, I'll say this, to be more in tune with not just my physical, but what's going on in my mind and what's going on in my spirit, and how they're all connected. And I do notice that when I'm feeling good, I'm usually eating good. My brain is better. I'm probably a little bit more physically, mobile and moving around. And that helps with the whole spiritual part too. It clears the brain so you can kind of be in tune with all that without sounding too, I don't know, weird about it.
No, that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's just, and I just looked, we're at 55 seconds, but,
Yay!
yeah, no. And I guess it's just a side of myself that I don't really know, or maybe it's just a side of myself that hasn't fully developed.
Or maybe you do know it. Maybe it's just so much a part of you that you don't have to try to be in tune with it.
Yeah, I like that.
It's an option.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop.
And what's it like for you guys? Do your beliefs change on a day-to-day basis, or are they pretty similar? Thank you guys for your contribution. We appreciate you so much. That's it for us, folks. Catch us next week for a brand new episode with brand new contributors. If you like what you heard, please share, and subscribe. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at WannaCoffeePod. That's WannaCoffeePod. I'm your host, Kai, and let's wanna coffee next week. Cheers. Oh my God, orange is not my new black.